Hey nerds, what's up? Today I'll be reviewing the hotly anticipated Blacktongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman, and I'm gonna let you know whether I think you specifically should pick it up or not. See you after the jump. So I had heard a lot about this book before I picked it up. There was a lot of rumblings going on about it. It's a brand new release. I was excited to read it, and I don't usually pay attention to endorsements for many reasons, but I was surprised at how many this had of very big names like Glenn Cook, Brent Weeks, Anthony Ryan, Jonathan French, just to name a few, and even Robin Hobb on the spine, like Robin freaking Hobb. So I just felt like with all those endorsements and all the things they were saying, like this was going to be amazing. And I read it and it was fine. It was fine. Like it did not blow me out of the water like I was expecting, but it also wasn't bad. Because here's the thing. This book is extremely character driven. And because there is only one character in this book, if you don't necessarily vibe with that main character, it's a little bit harder to enjoy it. So I really feel like whether or not you resonate with the main character has a huge effect on whether or not you'll enjoy this novel. So I'm gonna go into what I liked and what I didn't like, and also give some recommendations on who I think could really fall in love with this novel. So let's get into it, starting with what I liked. So off the bat, just some very excellent world building. That was by far my favorite part of this book. Like I fell in love with how Buehlman set up his magic and ideas. There was a lot of different regions that you get to meet in this book, and all of them felt very full and real. Like they all had different cultures and different languages and different mannerisms and different ways of dress. And I think it was done in a way that felt very realistic. Like it didn't feel like, okay, I checkmarked everything off this list about these people. Like it always flowed very easily in my opinion and seemed to make sense for the characters, and he weaved it in a very excellent way. So I really enjoyed that. And he also has giants and goblins in his novel, and I really liked how he executed those because I feel like they can come off a little cheesy sometimes. They're such a mainstay of classic fantasy that for some reason, like it shouldn't be that it comes off cheesy, but sometimes it does when I read it. And it did not come off that way at all. Those cultures were also very interesting and fleshed out, and so I really enjoyed that. And even if it's not particularly unique, I would say, the way that he does the politics and the whole guild thing in this world is very well done and interesting. Not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but still done well, so I enjoyed that aspect. Also, some just really interesting ideas around magic. I really liked a lot of the magic the characters had. I thought it was unique and interesting. And he also just had some really random throwaway ideas like the murder alphabet. I'm not gonna tell you what that is, but just even that title, it's like very funny and very clever. And a lot of the magic is that way, and I enjoyed that a lot. Also, the ending absolutely killed it. So I would say the last 10% of the novel was just hit it out of the park. Incredible pacing, incredible ending. Everything was wrapped up in such a good way, with leaving things open, obviously, for a sequel. And I just loved it, like really hit it out of the park. And I think a good ending can really give you a very positive feeling about a book. So I enjoyed that part of it. So now on to what I didn't like. For a book that's advertised as a funny and humorous book, it just didn't really hit my funny bone at all. It just wasn't necessarily my type of humor. Like, this is supposed to be like a grim, dark, funny fantasy, I think a la Joe Abercrombie. And while Abercrombie makes me laugh a lot, this like just really didn't. It was a lot of like potty humor, which is just totally not what I laugh at. Just like not my sense of style when it comes to humor. So that just was kind of like a miss for me, and it was a big part of the book, so I think that's why it was hard for me to identify with that main character. I also found that the author did this weird thing several times where right before the action is about to happen, he will cut the scene and then skip to the end and then retell it. So for example, there was a scene, this is not spoilery, where our characters are about to get into a fight. And then immediately as the fight begins, the scene cuts, and it cuts to the end aftermath, the end of what the fight is. And you're like, okay, I would have liked to kind of read that. But then the main character goes back and tells you what happened. But it's removed all of the tension from that scene. We already know what happens and how it ends, so why do I really care how it happened? Like, there's no tension anymore. And I think maybe the author did this because it allowed him to be funnier, like allowed him to crack more jokes since the character was kind of telling us in hindsight, which I understand, but unfortunately because most of the humor didn't land for me, it ended up removing tension in a way that I didn't love. However, he didn't do this in the ending, which is why I think it was so successful for me. So I realized that's like not very many things to dislike, but again, because this book is so character focused, me not vibing with the character kind of made a bigger deal than it normally would. So now the question is, should you read it? And this book wasn't like poorly rated for me. It was like a 3.5 stars. Like I enjoyed it. Again, it was just about that character thing. So I feel like this is a book I could easily recommend to somebody if I thought they'd enjoy it. It's definitely not a book I'd be like, stay away from. The people I would say to give a chance this to is firstly, if you are a huge fan of Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie, that middle installment in the First Law trilogy, I would for sure give this book a try. It is very similar in nature to that book. There is a group of people going on a really long journey, and it's completely character focused and not plot focused about that journey. And it's also very grimdark, but also slightly humorous. So I think if you are a fan of that, I would give it a try no matter what. Even if you're like, well, potty humor isn't really my thing. It might be more your thing than you think. Maybe I'm not describing it well. I don't think you'll hate the book. Maybe that's a bold claim. I think it's too well written to be a book that you're just gonna hate. It might be like me where you're like, well, this was just fine, I didn't vibe, but I think that would probably be the best chance you have. If you love that, I would give it a try. Also, if you just are feeling really stuck in fantasy, like everything feels the same, I will give this book credit, it was very different. And so if you're looking for something a little different, some new ideas, I'd also give this book a go. However, if you're someone who's really into plot-driven books, especially like grimdark plot-driven books, this book is not for you. It is not plot-driven in any way, shape, or form, so I would skip it. Also, if potty humor really isn't your thing, I'd also just skip it if that's not your humor. I wouldn't say it's like juvenile, but it is still potty humor. I don't know, it's hard to explain. But yeah, if that's not your thing, I would just skip it too. Overall, I think this book just really hinges on the main character. Now, there were several side characters that I liked, but again, since we only see the book from one main character and it is character driven, that's what it's all gonna hinge on. And every review I've read of this book seems to confirm that. People who felt about it were the same way as me. They didn't connect to the main character. People who loved it did connect to the main character. I haven't seen a whole lot of really negative reviews for this book, so I kind of stand by that you're probably not gonna hate it. At least I haven't seen those reviews yet. So if you need something new or you just are a big fan of the kind of character-driven grim books, I'd give it a shot. But yeah, for me, it was just fine. It was fine. Well, look at me, I finally did like a normal book review. It's been a while and I have a booktube. Oh well. If you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe, and also let me know if there are any anticipated releases you would like me to cover. I'm always very interested in that. So let me know those new releases below. And if you would like to see what I am currently reading as well as other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.